Welcome to VeloTour, one of the oldest classics on the cycling calendar. It's another race across the north of France, and a bit similar to Paris-Roubaix with some of the obstacles still to come in the race, but it should be more of a finish for the sprinters, but a bit harder than the last race that we had in Hamburg. So in the meantime, with 60 kilometers to ride, we have 4 breakaways who lead the peloton by 2.5 minutes. Giovanni Canale, Yelena Tavkaledze, Axel Sjogren, and Sadek Rukmanesh. They are approaching the first of the gravelled sectors, which in this context of course count as cobblestones. And a few uphill sections as well, but the climbs are quite short. So we'll see if the hard men of the classics back in the peloton will try and launch some big attacks, or if the sprinters can hang on and give us a sprint royale at the end of the race. There's a look at the profile now. A few of the obstacles coming up quite soon, starting with the Côte de Gogun. The last race, which was the Hamburg Side Classics, was won by Supershock Travivat of the VeloTour team and a great sprint finish, and that has altered the standings. We'll show the updated team standings up on the screen now. The big change is VeloTour now up to 2nd place in the team standings, jumping ahead of AlphaTauri. And both teams scored well in Hamburg, and they are just a few hundred points behind Kyoto. So the race for the top spot is closing down, and Kyoto for the first time under a bit of pressure. And they're a team that lacks firepower in the sprints, so a big opportunity for VeloTour and AlphaTauri to go for the lead in this race. So we'll see if they can get it done, but it always seems like that Kyoto has an answer for every piece of adversity. Whenever a team strikes a blow, they always strike right back. And despite some of their underwhelming performances in the Giro d'Italia, they still came out and scored almost the most points of any team in that race. So Kyoto is still very dominant in all phases of the season. Back to the race and the breakaways. I've just gone over some of the first gravel sections here. And this is Laura Duverne of Sismic leading the chase now. Gap just over 2 minutes, and Sismic has some options with Glenn Martins as an opportunist attacker and Miroslav Kostra if he can make it to the sprint finish. And Kostra was so good in the Giro d'Italia, clearly on very good form. Euskaltel showing interest as well. They have Johnny Valters, who's good in these sorts of races. Possibly Victor Petruskevicius as well. AlphaTauri, VeloTour, other teams showing some interest here. The peloton continuing on to the next sectors now, and the race starting to split up. 53 riders still in this group, so the back marker is starting to get tailed off. And with these constant obstacles and narrow roads, if you're at the back of the pack, it's going to be very, very hard to work your way up through all those riders. So you see Odo Schmid caught out a little bit, has to work very hard to get back into this group here. The lead of the breakaway, now 1 minute 45 seconds. It is coming down with 37k still to ride, so I don't think that group is going to win the race. Always hard for the breakaways to stay away, but in the classics, anything can happen, as we saw in the Trofeo Laiguelia and in Paris-Roubaix. Early attackers stealing the victories in those races. We'll see if a big move comes out of the peloton sooner or later, but I think this field's still a bit too big for something like that to work. So maybe Duverne trying to tire out the field and open up a chance for Glenn Martins to launch an attack. And Duverne, quite a strong rider. She's had a very quiet season, but on paper, definitely a quality rider in the VeloTour. So maybe she can get some results in the last half of the season, but for now, working as a domestique for the Sismic team. And Sismic needs a result because other teams have been outperforming them in the recent races, and they're starting to slip down the team standings. But Sismic seems like they have an option for every race, including in this one, so it's just about getting the job done, making sure they're in good position. And AlphaTauri is in good position. They are in total control of this race at the moment. Jeff Cooper, the climber, doing a great turn of pace on the gravel section there. And Levi Kennedy, a big sprinter, just scored his first points in Hamburg. now it looks like he's working for Heinrich Kromer here. And Kromer, we haven't seen him yet, but I'm sure he's near the front of this race. And this is a great course for him, so Kromer has a really great chance of scoring in the top 3 here. And that's the kind of result that AlphaTauri needs. And look what AlphaTauri has done now. They've blown the race to pieces. There's Jamal Safari just clambering across the gap. Just 18 riders still in this front group. With a group of 24 close behind, trying to chase back on. We'll see if the Observer can get back there. And Emmerich Alexander of Sismic has launched the first attack from the main field. Alexander, one of the few riders who has not scored any points yet this season. One of 3, I believe. Now going on the attack. The last survivor of the breakaway is Axel Sjogren, and AlphaTauri still laying down the hammer with Levi Kennedy. This is a big move by Emmerich Alexander, using a lot of energy, trying to open up a gap, but Levi Kennedy and the AlphaTauri train not letting that happen. And Euskaltel has been caught out, that train of orange jerseys. Pretty sure that's because Johnny Valters is in this group, and they want to get him back on terms. Because as it stands, it's looking a bit likely we'll get a sprint finish, and they need Valters up there to score as many points as possible. I think the move by Emmerich Alexander just getting brought back now. This is Marcel Lefay of Jupiler. Thought about launching a counterattack, but I think he's thought better of it for now. Adrian Bernard at the front for AlphaTauri, trying to keep the race under control. Lefay still trying to attack, and here are all the groups on the road. So the length and brutality of the VeloTour Classic starting to take its toll. Castelli, they have no chance now. Just chasing in a futile attempt to get back on. Some Natalia riders here. There's the Euskaltel train. But I don't think they'll get back in touch with AlphaTauri. Adrian Bernard, one of the strongest riders in this kind of terrain, putting a huge effort here to bring Heinrich Kromer closer to the finish in Tour. This race is very old. It used to be completely flat classic with no obstacles to speak of, a sprinter's paradise, but in recent years the organizers trying to spice things up with these little cobbled sections. And that's opened the door for Glenn Martins to launch an attack here. So this was the work of Laura Duverne, and the attacking of Alexander was to set up a move like this. Bernard is on top of it. A counter move by Marcel Lefay. Martins will chase on with that one, so will Virgil Lazarescu. Under 10Ks to go now, in fact just 7. And the attacks from the opportunists coming thick and fast, and this peloton down to a few dozen riders. Erlens Berzens now of Jupiler, launching a big move. Lefay's teammates on his wheel. And look how the field is getting stretched out. Berzens is still pushing on with the attack. And this is the winning move, I think. Just a dozen riders still at the front of the bike race. We'll see which sprinters are in this move. I see an AlphaTauri rider that could be Heinrich Kromer. Lefay is in here as well, he's a good sprinter. A VeloTour rider, it's Germuni. So good sprinters are still here, but Berzens is not giving up. The Latvian making a big push, but he's starting to tire. We turn left and then the finishing straight into Tour. We see the Flamme Rouge. Germuni opens up the sprint. He's got Heinrich Kromer on his right shoulder. A drag race to the finish line in Tour. And Sofiane Germuni of Algeria will take his second big classic win. 500 points for the VeloTour team. Kromer caps off a brilliant performance by AlphaTauri to take second place. And with those results, I think Kyoto might finally lose their top spot in the team standings. Kazim Banabi was the highest finisher in 12th place for Kyoto. So it could be enough for a new leader to emerge in the VeloTour. So the two teams that came into this race knowing they have to score a lot of points did just that. First and second place for the two challengers of the VeloTour. And how about VeloTour when Supachak Chirativat can't get to the end of the race because the terrain is too hard? You have Sofiane Germuni, who's nearly as fast as the Thai superstar. AlphaTauri, incredible as well today, controlling the race and setting up their sprinter for a second place. They would have liked to win, but 400 points will do the trick as well. So we'll quickly go over the results here of VeloTour. Sofiane Germuni of VeloTour was the winner. Heinrich Kromer and Kasper Bosmans rounding out your podium. Robo Nagasi gets another top 5 result after Hamburg. Ruslan Tamirsanov of Sismic, I think that's his first big result of the season. Lefebvre was in 6th, Lazarescu to some attacking, he was in 7th place. Truskavicius rescues an otherwise terrible day for Euskaltel Euskadi in 8th place. Tony Kiergo of Doimo was in 9th, and Glenn Martins in 10th place for Sismic. And as mentioned before, the highest ranked Kyoto rider was Kazim Banavi in 12th, and Katarina Beltran was in 14th. But the moment we've all been waiting for, has Kyoto lost the lead in the team standings? And the answer is yes, they have. They are down to 3rd place. The new leader of the VeloTour is Val Noor with over 7,700 points. They pick up their 11th win of the season, and they once again look like a real challenger. AlphaTauri up to 2nd place, just 100 points down. And then Kyoto down to 3rd, they're around 160 points behind. So the top of the standings are closer than ever before, with a lot of big races still to come. 2 huge monument classics are our next 2 races, the Ronde van Vlaanderen and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and I think those races will be decisive in the final destination of the team trophy. A race with great implications today from Paris to Tours, and a great winner in Sofiane Germoni. So thanks for always watching, and we'll see you next time for the Ronde van Vlaanderen.